Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. And in this episode of the Hill Country Podcast, I welcome back my first guest, Kathy Ragsdale. Kathy is the matriarch at Camp Stewart, having run the camp with her late husband, Cy Ragsdale, from 1967 forward. I know you'll enjoy this episode.
The Texas Hill Country is one of the most beautiful places on earth. In this podcast, recent Hill Country resident Tom Fox visits with the people and organizations that make this one of the most unique areas of Texas. Join Tom as he explores the people, places, and their activities of the Texas Hill Country.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode, and I'm thrilled to have back with me Kathy Ragsdale. Kathy, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me.
Fun.
Kathy, we're recording this in mid-May, and you've got a big session coming up. When does the first session open for Camp Stewart in 2023?
On June 2nd. I probably should check those dates. I don't have to do that anymore. June 2nd, I think, and ends August 4th.
So last year, 2022, I think, was the first full year after the pandemic. And I was wondering if maybe you could reflect back on what was it like last year. Were the kids, the boys, just happy to be here? Were you happy to have them? How was 2022 for you and the rest of the camp?
I think that while initially everyone thought COVID would be bad for camping, it was actually very good for camping because parents realized when they couldn't go to school and they weren't getting the socialization how much their children had missed it. And we actually in 2021, 22 saw increase in interest in camping, but I think the most dramatic was that first year, seeing how badly the boys and girls needed the camping situation, the socialization. They just didn't get along as well with others initially. They kind of had to relearn to play in the sandbox to play nicely together. But this year, hopefully, everything will be back to normal, and little boys will just be normal little boys.
So how many sessions does Camp Stewart have this year?
Well, we have the basic 2, but in those 2 4-week sessions, each one offers a 2-week session.
And then how many campers do you hope to have this year?
Well, we will have about 700, probably about 725 overall.
What age ranges?
6 through 16.
Those are very different ages for boys. And how do you really structure a program that deals with that many different age ranges?
Well, actually, we still use the same program that the husband Cy set up when we bought the camp in 1966. Our first summer was 67. And I know last time when we talked, I told you he went through World War II as a young lieutenant, 18 when he got there. In the foxholes, he kept a notebook on what he would have if he owned his own camp. And so when he came back to the States and was in college and worked at Camp Fern, Camp Rio Vista, and Camp at the Lions Camp, he refined his cabin leader system that he had heard about while he was overseas. And in it, the boys are put in cabins according to their age. Some of the younger ones are, I guess you would say, the ages they're most prevalent in the younger ages, say the 9, 10, 11-year-olds. There may only be a 3-month age span in those cabins in age differences. So each cabin is assigned to activities, and you only go to the activities with your age group. But then when it's an all-camp activity, such as meals, such as campfires, Superthon, all of those wonderful things, then you are with the boys of all ages. But from a learning standpoint, a skill standpoint, you are only working with your own age group.
So what are some of the activities that you guys will have in 2023?
Same traditional activities, Tom, that they've been having. You know, this is our 100th summer. And so we're traditional. We're non-woke. We're old-fashioned. We still make homemade ice cream every day, the kind grandmother used to make, where she cooked the custard until it coats the silver spoon. And now we put it through a soft serve freezer instead of turning by crank with ice. One year, had to buy 2 new ice machines just to take care of making ice cream. I was not happy with me. But we'll have the riflery, archery, swimming, canoeing, horseback. They'll still be playing polo cross, skeet shooting, arts and crafts, music, ceramics. Last year, I did woodworking. One of our camper dads who, life is a circle. His late father-in-law was a longtime fraternity brother and friend of Si's, but he had retired, and he called and said, could I come to camp too? And he's an outstanding woodworker. And last summer, a couple of the boys, one made a violin, a couple made guitars, and they worked. I mean, they made some amazing things just out of scrap lumber. They did so well this year, we've told him to buy some better wood so that if they've got that kind of talent, it's something that's going to last longer.
And that's one of the things that I remember, because I'd never done ceramics. I'd never done leatherworking. I'd never done some of those arts and crafts. I'd, played and done archery and shot. But do you find that it's really literally the first time some boys have done some arts and crafts?
Oh, it's the first time some boys have done anything. More these days, it's the first time they've picked up a .22 or picked up an arrow. I think that boys get exposed more today to the arts and crafts. I don't think they have the ceramics like we have here. It's more the little molds and pouring the stuff in. And here, Scott, who is a retired art teacher from Houston, really works on their creativity. So they work on the wheel, but they also just shape the most weird animals and things you can imagine. You can just see those little minds working. But we have a redone kiln. Scott's redone the kiln this year. We have the Raku kiln updated. Our ceramics program dates back to 1967 when J. Brault Miller, Dr. Miller, was dean of the College of Fine Arts at Texas Woman's University, but he had done his master's in ceramics at Cranbrook, and he came down and spent a month and set up our kilns and the ceramics program. So through the years, we just had some great ceramists.
Could you tell us the sort of breadth and scope of where everybody's from this year? Because when I was here, it was an international group. Is it the same?
It's still international. Yeah, I really at this point, because I'm not, when you were coming, I handled all that and everything, but I don't now, but just see the clothing order checks come through. They're from all over the world. We still have a great contingent from Mexico. We've got Europeans, we've got people from China, from everywhere. And when you were here, we only got those because they were children of or grandchildren of former campers. Somehow there was an association. Now that's not necessarily true. It's because parents are looking for the traditional philosophy and activities that the camp offers, and we fit what they want their sons exposed to.
Can we just say a few words about the physical beauty of Camp Stewart, Joy Bluff, the Guadalupe River, and those were the things that stuck with me.
Those are those God-made things that every day I say, thank you, Lord, for letting me live in this beautiful place. It's not just that it's such a great reminder of nature and God's beautiful creation. You've got the animals, you've got the people, the summer, the laughter just ringing off the hills of the little boys. When we bought Stewart, I teased Si that the sun was reflecting off Joy Bluff in his eyes, and he couldn't see any of the downside to it. But the fact that the water pipes were running on top of the ground and things like that didn't matter to him. He saw beyond that. It's such a beautiful place. Woody Gwynn said that Joy Bluff, the senior pool under Joy Bluff, was the epitome of the hill country, that the beauty of it was unsurpassed, and I have to agree.
And I agree with that as well. You mentioned 2023 is a significant year for Camp Stewart. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's our 100th summer. Doc Stewart was founded. Camp Stewart was founded by Doc Stewart in 1924, but when you count summers, 23 is our 100th summer, so we're going to celebrate the 100th summer, mainly with the campers this year, and then 24 will be the big celebration with more outsiders and all, but we're having birthday cakes each term, birthday to the camp, doing special things where I've been holed up because I couldn't ever make a decision on the logos to use. And so we're going to use 3 or 4 different ones that we fit the camp. We're going to use and it's been updated a little, but the medal that Jim Morris and Si create for Stewart's 50th anniversary, sitting at a table in the Angora Club while Jim Morris still worked for Jim Avery. And so we'll have that updated. We've got some others using Joy Bluff, but also using the emblem that Camp Stewart's used, I know, since the 20s, of the star with the bucking horse in it. So we're trying to honor tradition.
I was at an estate sale and I found some bookends that had that. So I bought the...
Oh, have fun.
Yes. If our listeners wanted more information on Camp Stewart, Kathy, where would be the best place for them to go?
Well, they can always call Camp 830-234-6670. They can go online to www.campstewart.com, or they can email us, Kathy@campstewart.com, or Jeeper@campstewart.com. Just so many. It's a family operation, and now I'm looking forward to the 3rd generation Ragsdale starting soon. He's 15 and he says Camp Stewart's what he wants to do. So fingers are crossed.
Oh, bless him. Kathy, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to visit with me.
Oh, Tom, thank you. I still and Daddy bring to camp the first time. I just love it. I love these generational tie-ins and the connections, the memories. That's what camp's all about. I think camp gives children, a mother called me Mother's Day to say thank you for helping raise my sons. And she said camp was the best investment we made in them. And I told her about a father who had called me long after his boys had outgrown camp and said, you never knew. There were years when I had to go to the bank and borrow money to send my boys because I thought it was that important. And she said, oh, Kathy, we did that too. She said, but that's always embarrassing. You don't talk about things. But she said, I look around and my husband and I agree that camp and the associations our sons had at camp are what made them what they are today. And
that must make your heart sing.
It does make my heart sing because that's what Si always said camp did, and did it for him as a little boy. I didn't go to a camp, this type of organized camp. I went to Girl Scout camp and church camp, but there's no comparison because they're short. And these build relationships because they're longer.
Well, and I moved to Kerrville 60 years later because of that experience.
Because of your granddaddy bringing you here, because he believed in it. And if I remember correctly, he brought you because he knew Travis Lipscomb and Brian and admired and respected him. So
that's right.
Yep.
Well, thanks again, Kathy, and I look forward to doing this again.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Yeah, next year.
This is Tom Fox again. I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Kathy Ragsdale. Kathy is a true treasure of the Texas Hill Country, one of my favorite people, and the work she has done over the past now 60 plus years at Camp Stewart has changed the lives of many, many, many boys who grew up into just outstanding men, literally across the globe. If you're interested in the camping life, I've linked to Camp Stewart in the show notes, so check that out. I also hope you will join me again for our next episode of the Hill Country Podcast. The Hill Country Podcast is a production of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network.